You're doing that. I can just have your attention. Thank you. Just have
And now you'll hand it back to me.
very quick minute. We do have some of the Field alumni marketing materials, which are the, for those of you who didn't see, our 10th anniversary yearbook, which has wonderful stories and so forth in it. The marketing piece known as the tabloid that we created some time ago. And of course, the rack cards. And both the rack cards are a place for you to put your information on, and the tabloids as well. So if you want any, they're there, and you can just talk to me about payments and so forth, so we can get it out to the Field alumni. Paula's book is here, and she's requesting that it be paid via Canadian PayPal. If you don't have PayPal, or if you don't want to do it that way, but you have the cash, just give it to me, and I'll just take one payment to her at the end of the weekend.
How much is Paula's book, please?
Paula's book is
$33
Canadian. And Kelly's book is right here as well too. And Bridget had bought a bunch of them some time ago, so they're here for $20 each. And there's a can for you to put them on. Okay. So, and that's all I need to do. I don't have to do another 2 minutes. Or...
You're good.
You're good. And Bridget's going to do the introduction. I think everybody's here.
Hey,
Everybody's here that's meant to be here.
okay, so we're going to start. Thanks, everybody. It is my pleasure to introduce Kelly Wendorf, our afternoon workshop leader and guest speaker. Kelly is an executive, a personal development master coach, motivational speaker, a science innovator, a spiritual mentor, and a socially responsible entrepreneur with a whole bunch of really great horses. Kelly lives in near Santa Fe, just outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico. And she's the developer and founder of the EQUUS experience, which you can look up. And it's an equine assisted learning process for leadership and self-mastery. Kelly's book's available after this program. And she's also provided with us a PDF, which is quite long. It's a dissertation from someone's PhD, which we'll be emailing after the program. I had the pleasure of working with Kelly in person last fall, and transformational, and still processing much of it. And she is the keeper and steward of one of the Cavalier horses, among many other things, and a beautiful donkey. Take it away, Kelly.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. And two beautiful donkeys now. Two beautiful donkeys. Donkeys need each other. I just figured that out as being a lifelong horsewoman. It took me a while to get the donkey culture down. So thank you, Bridget. Thank you so much for just facilitating this, that I could be here. And thank you, Jennifer, for holding space and just for this opportunity to be here. I'm really, really delighted to share this space with you. And of course, you know, isn't it fabulous that technology allows us to go thousands of miles and still be together? I'm particularly grateful to be with all of you, the work you do with the feel approach. And I want to acknowledge each of you for the really important work that you do in the world, the service that you do for the world. And I acknowledge not only what you do, but how you do it. So it's very inspiring. I always start my processes, classes, anything that I do with acknowledging the traditional carers of the land on which I am standing. Maybe you all have already done that today. And if you haven't, this is a great opportunity to pay respect to the traditional peoples, the carers of your area. Perhaps you know their name, their indigenous name. So if you would join with me to just gratefully acknowledge and pay deep respect to the traditional indigenous custodians on whose ancestral homelands we gather today. For me, it's the Tsuki and Tewa people, the elders, ancestors, past, present, and future. And we acknowledge and offer deep gratitude to the land, the plants, the animals, the water, the soil that supports us at that time. And thank you. Thank you so much. So I thought to start this time together with a little bit of a guided meditation. So if you wouldn't mind to close your eyes for me. And just take a longer exhale than inhale. So if you inhale just naturally, count of maybe 3, you can exhale count of maybe 5. And just do that a couple of times. When you take a longer exhale than inhale, you send a parasympathetic volley to the brain that everything is safe and you are in the right place. And with your eyes closed, just get super present with your body. However it's showing up right now is just fine. Maybe there's a sort of swirl in there, a somatic swirl just from the activity of getting here.
Oh,
Are
And
we still frozen?
No, it's okay.
I'm just gonna sit.
are we good, Jennifer?
I think we're good now. I think it's when we have a pause. For some reason, when we pause, there's a pause in the system. But so far, you
Interesting.
sound okay. Keep
Okay.
going.
I'll keep going.
That seems to happen when we're doing meditative practices.
So close those eyes again. And now think of a horse in your life that first impacted you in a meaningful way. Perhaps it was a horse or a pony in childhood, or a neighbor's horse that lived over the fence, or perhaps it's a horse in your adulthood who was different from all the others. Perhaps they needed a different approach to their training, a different kind of care, or it's a horse who's presently in your life. You may have been fortunate enough to have many horses, but there is one that pierces your soul, that really lives in your heart in a special way. And if you pause quietly, they'll make themselves known to you. So see them standing in front of you. See how they stand in front of you and really sense their presence with you at this moment. See how their eyes gaze into your whole being in that way that they do. And notice what you feel in your body when they're with you. And just be with those sensations. Those sensations are the imprint of that horse, their eternal presence of that horse that lives with you, in you, as you. Now imagine that you are standing in front of this being and you ask them 3 important questions. I will list them one at a time and then pause so that you can hear their answer to you. And I encourage you not to overanalyze their answers. Don't overthink. It can come in code like a song or a poem or a word or a picture. Just trust what comes to you, even if it seems irrational, it doesn't make sense. So the first question you are going to ask your horse is, who am I? Ask the horse, who am I? What is my work to do? And the last question, what do you want for me? Not from me. What do you want for me? Take a moment and just really let their answers land in your mind and in your heart and body. And now open your eyes and turn to the person next to you 3 minutes each, and just share what came to you from your horse companion. 3 minutes each, and then we'll start together.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Hello?
Well, first, who am I? What is my purpose? What's my work? And what do you want from me?
Okay.
And
I saw a lot of velocity. And I saw
bring forth light, bring forth light, bring the light, bring the light. Yeah, that's sort of my leadership.
I think because I don't love it.
Yeah, that's why it's funny when I was with Amber, just
Purpose in the work. She listens to kids, was also
you are counselor, like. Well, I was kind of seeing all the horses when here. Yeah, and then I landed on Champ on my horse because I've never felt anything like I was with him. You know, it was just like, yeah, we had a really powerful connection last night, the night before, Wednesday night. I just went to see him. His legs are swollen right now, so he's on some antibiotics. Just all alone in the barn. And now he's on reverse turnout. He jumps out of the field. And keep him there. He just gets out and find him on the track. So he's been holding me, holding and it wasn't even, I wasn't even sad. I was actually crying. I was having trust. I felt so loved by him. Well, so then when I saw him today, I was like, who am I? I got like healing. And then this one, I was seeing a lot more than I was hearing. Before I remember he was like, he had nothing on him, but he was turning his head to his side, like he was almost like left. Yeah, the left. It was like here, and I thought maybe he wants me to walk beside him, but he wanted me to like get on his back. But it was like there was no tap. It was just me and him on his back. Yeah. Yeah. So I was on his back and just kind of holding him, walking with him. We were like one. Yeah. So it felt like he was saying like we have to with them. You know? And then the last one, that one was doing so quickly.
And take about a minute just to wrap up.
Thursday, giving us so much it's like so healing for me to see that female energy.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. I mean, they all are.
In different ways.
Yeah. It's very loving. It's the one person to go to.
Hey, take about 15 seconds to start wrapping up.
15 seconds.
Great. You be my eyes, Jennifer.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. That was really terrific to overhear some of your, just sort of hear some of your stories. So keep these answers kind of close to you during the rest of our time together. They may inform some of what we explore together today. I think I'd like to start with a story. It's a story that was passed down to me by a Pueblo elder. The native people here are called Pueblo people. They're a farming peoples. They're about 7,000 years old. And a Pueblo elder named Larry Littlebird gave me this story, but it's a little bit of a hybrid of other stories that were told to me from other folks in this area, indigenous folks. And the story, I call the story The Promise. And this story begins, like many that have been passed down through thousands of years, with a kind of paradox, something like, long, long, long ago, just yesterday, in a place far, far away, right here. When the first peoples walked this nation, the people and the animals all lived together in harmony. All the creatures and all the living things were friends to the people. The birds, the reptiles, and the four-leggeds were all friends. Even the insects and the rocks, the rivers and the trees were friends to the people. But there was one creature in particular who was the most beloved of the people. This creature was the horse. Back in those days, horses were quite small, not like the horses of today, and people were small too. The horses were wise companions, and the people respected their point of view. Each day, the horses and the people would greet one another in that sacred way that all creatures greeted one another, with their breath, mouth to nostril, an intimate connection. One would blow to the other. And this greeting of breath said, I greet that in you which is the same in me. And this breath, this life force, is the same in all living beings. It was a salutation of oneness and all the recognition that we are from the same livingness. In those days, everyone lived in harmony together and everything worked really well. Everything was in balance. But over time, as the population of the people grew, people needed more food and more land. Their farming, their hunting, and their living practices became out of harmony with the earth. And the animals became concerned and spoke amongst themselves about what to do. You must speak to the people, the animals said to the horses. They will listen to your counsel. And the horses agreed to this task. And by the way, we say horses, but in those days, the horse was such a sacred, holy being. Well, he is, but in those days, they recognized them as so, that they had no name for a horse because his name was too sacred to say. So they arranged a special circle and invited the people to come together for a dialogue. When the circle convened, the horses and the people greeted one another in their customary way with an exchange of breath, mouth to nostril, nostril to mouth. Brothers, sisters, greetings to you, our beloved friends, they said. Greetings, dear horses, said the people. It has come to our attention that your farming and hunting practices have grown out of harmony with the earth and all living things. You are hurting many. You are hurting us, and you are hurting yourselves. The people listened politely. If you continue, dear brothers and sisters, you will cause great harm, and a great darkness will descend upon us all. But the people, being as they are, needed to see for themselves if what the horses were saying was true. And so they continued doing what they were doing, weaving a thread of fear and separation upon the land. And as the horses predicted, a time of great darkness did descend upon the earth. The creatures pulled away and grew afraid. The land began to retaliate with drought, floods, disease, and there was much fear, death, violence, and separation and starvation. All the animals fled, except the horses, who were reluctant to abandon their friends. But over time, the horses too agreed that circumstances had become unbearable and they must go and leave this great darkness. And just like that, they disappeared. One last horse remained, however. Before he departed to follow the others, he turned to speak to one person. Breathing into his face, the horse spoke, "Greetings, dear brother. Indeed, what we have warned you about has happened. This land is no longer safe for us, and we are leaving. But know this, one day we will return, and when we do, it will begin a new time, a time where you will find yourself at a choice point. You will continue to live. Will you continue to live in fear and separation, or will you choose to live in love and connection?" And with that, the last horse disappeared. And so began a prophecy. The prophecy called the Great Outwaiting. It was told from grandfather to grandson, great-grandson, and from grandmother to granddaughter to great-granddaughter. It was told in kivas. It was told in fire circles. It was told while hunting. And it was said that when the horses disappeared, it began a time of great darkness where fear and separation prevailed. But one day, according to the prophecy, the horse would return. And his return would signal a new era, a possibility for humanity, known as the Great Outwaiting, when creatures and the people would wait to see what force would prevail, love and connection or fear and separation. Many, many years passed on, thousands of years. And during this time, the creatures did not speak to their human friends, and the land was hostile, and there was much sadness. Then one day, as the people gathered shellfish on the beach, they began to see large ships coming over the horizon. The ships anchored, and smaller boats carrying large people clothed in metal, and large creatures clothed in metal too came to shore. At first, the people did not recognize this huge metal-clad creature. And there was so much pain in their eyes and suffering from the huge metal bits in their mouths and the terrible spurs on their sides. And the animals did not look like the small, peaceful animals from before. And the great creatures that were clad in metal did not recognize the people, for they were now much taller and also very fearful. But when the first horse disembarked, he paused by one of the people on the beach, and his breath fell upon their face of the young woman, which awakened her deep, ancient memory. "Oh, sweet brother, it's you," she exclaimed. "It's you, our horse family. You have returned." And she and her clan fell to the ground in gratitude and respect. "You are back, our beloved friends." The soldiers thought it was their guns and their might that awed the people on the beach. And they felt emboldened by the people's reverence, thinking it was about their superiority. But they were mistaken. It was the horse's return, which signaled the prophetic realization to a sacred story told for thousands of years. This is what evoked so much veneration. The horses spoke to the people, and it began with the exchange of breath. "Greetings, dear brothers and sisters, we have returned." Thus begins the time of the Great Outwaiting, where all of creation will wait to see which choice you all now make. A choice for fear and separation, or a choice for love and connection and harmony with all things. And the horses, because they were the most beloved of all, agreed to be wise companions to the people, to help them live in love and connection and to choose wisely. And we are still in the time of the Great Outwaiting. And all creation waits. And the horses are here trying to help whomever will listen. So what's notable about this story, this very, very old story, are four things. First, that the horse was unlike any of the other creatures on earth. They were wisdom companions who volunteered themselves to be of service to humanity, that they were holy beings, and that they came from the Creator as a gift. Second, the story debunks a colonized and Eurocentric worldview that the Spanish brought the horse to North America, when in fact, paleontological research proves that the horse is actually indigenous to North America. Their origin is in Wyoming, a place called the Polecat Bench, which is a kind of flat mesa. Third is that the story of fear and separation harming the earth, the story of violence, is actually a very, very old story. It didn't start in Europe. It didn't start with colonization. It started long ago, and almost every society around the world fell into it. This is substantiated through recent anthropological and archaeological research that asserts that a power over dominance structure began to emerge and overwhelm the power with partnership cultures about 6,000 years ago. That started in Greece and then just kind of spread around the world. And the fourth notable point in this story that the horse volunteered themselves for precisely these times we're in right now, the time of the great outweighting. Because in fact, you know, as you all know, we are at a crossroads. In researching this keynote with you all and also researching my next book, I've just stumbled upon some very terrifying statistics that are just worth noting. And we're really standing on the stories of all the tragedies that befall a society that's separated from itself, that's not in touch with or honoring the feminine. And by that, I don't mean men, women, genders, I mean the feminine as a quality. That's separated from the wild and that disregards Mother Earth. And the list is so long. Studies should say that we have 26 years until life on Earth as we know it ends, if something does not change. And we have 16 years left of fresh water at current management levels, 16 years. 200 species of plants, animals, creatures become extinct every single day, 200. And of those 200, 140 are because of deforestation. 18 million acres of forest are lost every year to fire and arson and logging. Of course, pollution of land and sea and air, the disappearing of the night sky, the disappearing of silent places, unprecedented levels of child suicide and institutionalized violence, radioactivity. So when you explore the indigenous cosmologies around North America, particularly those parts where horses were abundant and people worked alongside horses for thousands of years, you find a lot of such prophecies. Though it's pretty diverse in terms of how the narratives unfold, in terms of scope and detail, the key theme is exactly the same, and that is the horse is a sacred wisdom companion, never meant to have been a beast of burden, who's here for one purpose, to help us navigate these times of unprecedented challenge, and that the horse came to us. So this is significant. We didn't go and capture and tame the horse. I mean, we did later during those dark times. And when I say we, I mean peoples around the world, ancient peoples. But in the beginning, the horse came to us voluntarily. So I just want to share a couple of slides with you. So some of these drawings are what you call ledger drawings. They were drawn on the old sort of ledgers where the colonizers would come in and try and, keep lists of all the native children, or, keep lists of what was traded with whom. And a lot of folks ended up, at least in the last couple of hundred years, started making drawings. And I love this because it shows such a beautiful sort of spirit horse. There's another. So in fact, I will send you, or I'll be sending you a PDF of a dissertation written by a woman named Yvette Running Horse Collin for her University of Alaska PhD dissertation. It's called The Relationship Between the Indigenous Peoples of the Americas and the Horse, Deconstructing of a Eurocentric Myth. Even, the maintaining of this myth that still perpetuates today that the Spanish brought the horse to North America, in fact, reinforces a Eurocentric colonized point of view. So it's important that the true story, the true science behind the origin of the horse is told. She compiles a lot of stories from North America of the horse as a holy being, and the teachings that the horse brings. So I think it's wonderful to read this, and just kind of, even the way she writes is very nonlinear. So it's really wonderful to kind of immerse yourself in those stories. Another body of work was compiled by a Diné woman. Diné is the real word for Navajo. She was a researcher named Kelsey John. And her research asserts that horses weren't here just for our healing, but to help us specifically wake up from the trance of colonization. Colonization in how we run our organizations, how we manage our land, how we organize communities. It's a very beautiful body of work. I don't have permission to share that with you, but it's just a similar vein, big collection of stories. And she describes in her dissertation a ceremony, and in that ceremony, it's an ancient Diné ceremony, and in the ceremony is a song that's embedded into that ceremony where the horse is brought into the earth plane. But that can't happen until the rain, the earth, the whole environment has to be in place and in balance before the horse can come. In other words, the conditions in which a holy being comes to earth has to be in balance. So all must be in order, as she writes, before the horse can arrive and prosper. All non-humans and humans have to be ready for this coming of the horse. We'll call it that way, the coming of the horse. And the way the song is constructed and structured alludes to the positionality of the horse within the Diné universe, in that all things are connected, and also that the horse is holy. It's sacred. She writes, one cannot sing about or even understand the horse until one understands the network of land, water, sky, grass, and everything as also sacred beings. And I just want to say that again, because I feel like this is very resonant with the feel approach. All of us in this room, in some way, intuit or have a direct experience of our oneness with all things. One cannot sing about or even understand the horse until one understands the network of land, sky, grass, and everything else as sacred beings too. So if we were to acknowledge that these cosmologies are in fact just as valid as, perhaps even more valid than, the consensus colonized narratives about nature and humanity's place in the world and nature, then we begin to see that our role as equine assisted practitioners is much more than just a career. It is much more than just a skill. It's a sacred path. It is a sacred path. It's not like a sacred path. So I imagine most of you know or intuit this already. And my guess is that this is also why you're not just equine assisted practitioners, but you practice the feel approach, because you have this inherent sense of your oneness and know that the horses are our brothers and sisters. So part of the reason I think I'm here with you today is, I believe, is to validate that as kind of an outsider, if I can say it that way, even though I don't feel that way, and give you even more resources and perspectives that will continue to validate that, because we live in an age where everything is commodified, everything's put into sound bites, hashtags, everything that is sacred gets dumbed down into the mundane. And I want for all of you that you hold and never forget how sacred your role is in the world and how important. My father was a world famous archaeologist. He worked on Leakey's team. He was just, a pretty profoundly celebrated scholar. And so I had a really unconventional childhood and spent much of it on archaeological digs and in various indigenous communities around the world. And excuse me for being slow on this whole share screen thing. Technology is not my first language. So this is me in Ethiopia. There's a story behind this, but the man holding the horse is a chieftain. And my father and his team members actually saved the chieftain's son from poisoning. They whisked him off to actually a hospital. These people are the Oromo people, and they're the indigenous people of Ethiopia, where they also today is just systematic eradication of these people. Their story is very similar to indigenous people all around the world. But as a chieftain, he had a horse because holy people had a sacred companion, and that sacred companion was the horse. No one else, and you find this in a lot of different indigenous communities around the world, the only one allowed to have a horse is a holy man or shaman, because they know how to hang out in the realms of horses. So he had a horse, beautifully decorated with all these tassels, and he allowed me to sit on his horse, which was really, really special. So much was imprinted upon me by these surroundings, and throughout my life, I was drawn to the spiritual teachings of these people. One of my teachers was an Aboriginal elder by the name of Uncle Bob Randall. And whoops, my camera's gone fuzzy. 1 second, this might help. Yeah, great. So the term uncle in the Australian Aboriginal tradition is a term of respect. You say uncle or auntie when you're with an elder. And I first met Uncle Bob because I was compiling stories for a book on belonging. This project had me spending countless days with Uncle Bob, and days, hours, weeks, months, just following him around with a microphone to record his oral stories and teachings. He felt like, as he put it, the Aboriginal heart was damaged, and that these stories had to be passed on to whomever would hear it. So he wanted his oral stories and teachings to be recorded. He wanted them down on paper. A lot of Aboriginal people were not happy with him about that, but he was like, too bad, the world is really in trouble and we really need these stories. And I'm super grateful for that, because it have been powerful teachings for me and my work with regards to horses. The Aboriginal Australians are the oldest culture in the world, about 60,000 years old. So his words of wisdom spoken to me and now through me to you are not only precious and rare, but there's no coincidence that they're coming to you right now. I just wanted to say that these words were deliberately meant for you. So I want to give you a picture of Uncle Bob. He's a honey. Uncle Bob left here about 8 years ago. One of the things he said to me was this, and I'll share these words with you. He was talking about our belonging. As an Aboriginal person, you know that you belong to much more than your human family. You belong to the land and all the living creatures on it. You belong to anything that is living, and it belongs to you. It's the livingness, the beingness that connects us. That livingness is what we share and what is the same in all of us. This livingness is what makes us family. We are one, from the most minute, tiny grain of sand to the largest mountain, every reptile, bird, animal, insect, rock, and tree. Even the clouds and the rivers are our family. Some people don't understand this sense of belonging. They don't know how to feel it or recognize it. To them, I say, start with the feeling. the living things around you. Start with the feeling that the living things around you know they belong to you. Those of you who've got animal friends like cats or dogs or horses, those animals will show belonging to you, and you can feel that belonging when they show it to you. And they come to you with that recognition in their eyes. Now extend that feeling to every other thing, including the trees. They don't have the same response as an animal because they're all in one spot, but they've got it too. Move out from there. The rocks, the water has it too. When I look at a rock, it is not just a rock, it is my connection to all creation. It's only our misguided thinking that lessens our belonging, our being part of what is. It's only our misguided thinking that lessens our belonging, our part of being what is, of being part of what is. The thought that we are not connected with all things makes us weak. And all those beings, rocks, trees, animals, they miss us. So when he said that to me, that nature misses us, I mean, that's a big deal. That flies in the face of this narrative like the earth would be better off without us, and we're kind of separate, and we're these terrible, we're this terrible virus upon the earth. No, we're lost. We have misguided thoughts and beliefs. We are nature, and our separation from nature is just in our own minds. So of course nature misses us, and our collective absence from nature isn't natural. And I asked Uncle Bob, when he said weak, that this misunderstanding that we are separate from nature makes us weak. I talked to him for a long time. What do you mean by weak? This word weak, what do you mean? And after quite some time, we finally came to what he meant was fragile. It makes us fragile. It gives us a fragile psychology that's very defensive, fear-based, individualistic, power over versus power with. And fragility is something that's very important for us to, as practitioners, to identify in the world, because it's everywhere. So fragility, here's a great little definition, whoops, for you. The trauma-based mindset, pervasive in most of society around the world. It uses power over, power over methods of violence, manipulation, subjugation, defensiveness, and obstruction, and often masks as victimization. So fragility is just so pervasive in society that we don't even realize that it's the soup we swim in. But if you look at things that sort of what's happening in politics and what's happening with institutions such as, our corporate cultures, there's very much, we're taught leadership is power over. People are intimidated and forced into all kinds of obligation and subjugation. And because it's so much the soup we swim in, we don't always recognize it when it's happening, or when we're doing it, we're in a fragile mindset. So really what fragility is about is that power over mindset. A great example of how power over masks as victimization are people, these predators like Woody Allen and Harvey Weinstein, when they're finally called out and seen for what, the things that they've perpetrated against women, they go all into defensiveness and poor me, and I had nothing to do with it. And that is exactly how fragility shows up. That's a kind of extreme example. So Power over, power with. Power over is linear, mechanistic, exclusive, extractive, controlling, dominating, trade-offs, compromising. We'll do some trade-offs here. Short-termism, separative thinking, rational analytic thinking. Power with, very circular, flexible, living, alive, organic, emergent, inclusive, partnering, things like mutualisms, symbiosis. They've done research that species that operate in power with models, that operate with mutualisms and cooperatives actually thrive longer. Intergenerational, interconnected, intuitive, embodied. Power over teaches us to be disconnected from our bodies. Our bodies cannot be trusted because our bodies tell us we're connected with everything. And power with is very embodied. So yeah, it's, this way of being is everywhere, and it lives inside us, that we often just don't see it. And part of our job, I think, as practitioners is to wake people up from this fragility and empower them into more power with ways of leading, living, being in their relationships, being with their horses, being with the earth. And so when we deliberately engage with horses as teaching and healing companions, we're stepping into not a new paradigm, but in fact, an old, ancient, essential paradigm, one that was eradicated, 6,000 years ago, a paradigm that we are in fact wired for. We're wired for love. We're wired for peace, biologically. We're wired for connection. So it's a paradigm that's been forgotten. A lot of the native people now, they know what was taken from them. Most of us don't even realize what was taken from us because it was so many thousands of years ago. So we as practitioners are opting out of the current dominator power over paradigm, a fear-based paradigm that was built on a mistaken identity premise that we're separate from nature. And we're opting instead into a power with paradigm, a partnership oneness paradigm. And this puts us, all of you in this room together today at the very front lines of human evolution at this time, in my opinion. We are at the forefront of a very important movement. And because we're actively partnering with nature, to me, this says we are really at the front lines. And a lot of folks can dismiss the work because it's playing with horses. No, we are partnering with a sacred being to bring forward a new paradigm. And not just any equine assisted practitioner, mind you. There's a ton of practitioners that do not understand the oneness principle. And, using horses as objects, as medicine balls. This is just the paradigm of power over. And that is not the work we're here to do. So it's those of us who come from this place that you all embody. Horses willing participation, holding sacred space, horses not as objects, and raising of consciousness. So think about that. We're partnering with nature to rescue the human heart away from the tyranny of dogma, servitude, violence, orthodoxy, and fear. Which leads me to my next point. Given the importance of what we do and the complexity of a business that has the enormous overhead related to horses, horse care, horse facilities, how do we collectively ensure that our businesses are viable? And what I mean more than viable, more than even sustainable. How about regenerative? And by regenerative, I mean
Just a second.
surplus. Oh yeah.
Kelly,
Yes.
can you just go back? You froze.
Yes.
We missed you at, do you know what statement it was?
Dogma.
We missed you at dogma.
Dogma.
So Can you kind of review the last 5 minutes of what we missed?
Of course.
Because we're all here with bated breath, writing everything down.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay. So I think I think this piece, it bears repeating that when we talk about all of us at the forefront of a movement, I'm very clear this isn't about any equine assisted practitioner, because there are plenty of equine assisted programs out there that use the horse as an object, where the principles are not there, that really we all agree that we are in a oneness framework. And so really those of us who come from this place that embody horses' willing participation, that we're holding sacred space. Horses are not objects or tools, and a collective raising of consciousness. And to be a practitioner like this, you have to embody it. You can't just conceptually get, this stuff. You have to embody that you are connected as one with not only the horse, the rocks, the trees, the animals, the sky, the rivers. This is powerful medicine. So think about that. We're partnering with nature to rescue the human heart from the tyranny of dogma, servitude, violence, orthodoxy, fear. Which leads me to my next point. It's a very important point. Given the importance of what we're here to do as professionals, as medicine people, as shamans, and the complexity of a business that has the enormous overhead related to horses, horse care, horse facilities, how do we collectively ensure that our businesses are viable? More than viable, more than even sustainable, but regenerative. And what I mean by regenerative is that there's a surplus of energy, of wealth, of leaving the planet better than we found it, leaving our horses better than we found them. One of the fundamental challenges we face is finding the balance between following our deep sacred purpose and passion for horse-assisted learning and facilitation, and at the same time creating really solid, robust business models that ensure our success. As individuals drawn to this work, we're driven by a passion. I know we all are. I'm going to risk just speaking for all of us. We want to make a positive impact on the lives of others. It's very values driven. But in order to make a difference, we must also consider the practicalities of running a successful regenerative business. And it's through this balance we can continue to serve our purpose while ensuring our own well-being and the well-being of our horses and the well-being of our land, the land that we take care of, and our ranches, our facilities, and the long-term viability of our endeavors. And I want to say, particularly as women, and I think I heard 1 or 2 male voices in the room, this work tends to be very largely women practitioners. And as women, we are collectively challenged with self-worth issues, sexism, misogyny, internalized sexism, and it can translate into issues of leadership, money issues. And I think we really need to, confront some of the old narratives that are at play. As practitioners, we're all at risk of falling prey to any or all of the following, which prevents us from creating and maintaining healthy, robust equine assisted businesses. The first thing is we don't charge enough. We don't charge enough. We don't charge enough because we love what we do, or we're doing our work in service to something greater. We don't charge enough because we want the work to be accessible to everyone. Well, there's a business model for that. We're not charging enough because we're afraid what people will think, what that might look like. There's this idea of being greedy or something, and then that is not in alignment with taking care of the earth. It's just a narrative. And we don't follow robust business strategies because, quite frankly, we'd rather be outside with the horses and the land. than hanging out with, serious business goals. It can be boring and intimidating. And I don't feel that we collectively educate the public well enough about the difference between conventional approach to equine assisted learning and the more holistic ontological approach. The public has to be educated because they don't know what they don't know. And what you all are doing is different. And I'm just going to say the word true. And when I say the word true, I mean just in alignment with a greater order of things. We also don't educate the public as to the costs involved for better duty of care, for people, for planet, for horses. These things take time. Things go slower. They take resources to do it well and holistically. And if we collectively fall prey to our entire movement, then our entire movement and all that we're trying to shift systemically in the world is at risk. The ancient voices of this partnership paradigm will be lost. Because quite frankly, no one can do it quite as well as the horse-human partnership. There's something magic about that, something alchemical. So as professionals, we're challenged, and I include myself in this, to change our beliefs and narratives that keep us stuck. And we owe it to ourselves and our horses in the world at large to step into some pretty robust business models. Because of everything I've shared with you today, I'm working with gifted equine assisted practitioners like yourselves is just one of my most exciting spaces right now. I love to help them create thriving businesses. It feels very values driven for me, because when all of you have thriving, robust businesses, that means the whole movement is thriving. So I love assisting people and their horses to thrive, to stretch into comfort zones and help them live fulfilling and abundant lives and wealthy lives. Help them figure out long-term strategies for their horse care, their legacy, their leadership, their intellectual property. And I'm still learning many things in this space, and bucking with this status quo that has historically been around. It's been the case for choosing, any of us who chose work in the equine domain, as trainers, as riding instructors, we would eat beans and rice while subsidizing our wealthy clients' well-being. Horse trainers are paid very little to put their lives at risk in order to ensure that they've got a safe horse for their client. And they're just underpaid. Everyone in the horse industry is underpaid, and it's not right. So with the remaining time that we have together, I wanted to open the space for some dialogue and then open the space for some Q&A. So that we could collectively come to some new narratives and perspectives and insights and learn from each other's experience, and perhaps emerge with some more information and support and clearer goals, especially in service to FEEL's growing presence in the world. So how about, wow, I've talked for a long time. How about, and I have another 30 minutes. Is that right, Jennifer?
Yeah.
Fabulous. So how about we break into groups of 3 or 4, no more than 4, and discuss for the next 15 minutes some questions I have on a slide. And then after that, we'll open up the whole room and we'll do some Q&A. How's that sound? So grab your 3 or 4 people.
So Katrina, I'm just going to say, if because it's a bit cramped in here,
Yes.
I'll be timekeeper.
Yes.
If people want to go out to a picnic table to have the dialogue, you're welcome to do that. So I'll look after the time, bring you back in. Yes. She's going to put them up, and then you can write them down.
So here are the questions, and just don't go too far away. So
or if somebody has a phone, you can take a picture of the question.
Yeah. And we'll see you back here in, let's do 15 minutes. Okay. See you in 15, everybody.
Thanks, Kelly.
Mhm.
I can read them. What does the talk provoke or evoke in you? What are some challenges you face currently in creating or sustaining your equine assisted business? What seeds of regeneration already exist in your current business strategy? Does anyone have any questions of clarity for Kelly before we break? Do we understand what a seed of regeneration means? Do you want to clarify? Is everyone good? I heard no. Okay. Could you clarify that, Kelly, please? See what
Yeah, where it inside the work that you're doing and the business that holds that work, where is it already kind of where is there a seed where it's already really robust? It may be that part of your business kind of needs some help, but there's a part of it that really is very robust and sustaining. And so it's important to lift that up as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
Great.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Breakout team. Teams of 4. Oh, that's too bad. Are you coming back tomorrow? Okay. It's hot in here. We can turn the lights out as well.
Yeah.
The cozy feel, the cozy one and nap feeling. Almost there. Yeah, me. Right.
Yes. The first question is, what does this talk about or evolve in me? So that would be marketing. Of despair. Yeah, I felt a lot of despair as the talk went on. It provoked a little more hope. Because it kind of made the reality. Right, because it's been tough. And then as she talked, it provoked more feelings of hope, which is really glad of it. Because I was feeling really bad.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
You do have the money.
Are you sure?
You have the plan.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
I think I felt like it talks kind of, you said you both feelings of despair, of darkness, because it was, and then, but as she further talked about and bringing us back and working as partners.
No, it's true. I mean, that's.
That's all I
Yeah.
I just was sitting here and it's felt like it's.
We've been trying to do that for a couple years.
I
like
know.
COVID happened.
When I was up, yeah,
It's very stressful.
We'll go now.
So that, yeah.
So.
Yes, I was.
Correct.
I do need some education on it. Yes. You need to be brought back up.
Just like nature racism. That was a big
business.
Yeah.
Nature, I love that.
And we like that too.
Because sometimes now.
Well, on my right now, since you called,
I can.
the middle official name for it, it's a non-registered,
Oh, yes.
not-for-profit.
And there's nobody there.
Also known as a
There's
church.
nobody there. I'm thinking,
Why?
It has a bank account.
well,
Nobody
I
responsible.
hope I.
Are you glad you're?
I'm glad for that.
It doesn't
I never heard
have
that
to
damn
be-
nature misses. That was very powerful.
I know, it was so powerful for me. I mean, I go with my dog because she needs
So
to
they
walk.
said that.
And
Then we'll probably get an instant.
just walking in that forest, there are very specific forest areas. And they're all envelope a different feeling.
That's neat.
It is so, you can feel this.
Right. So that's the forest area, and then there's an area of water where there's a means open space. And it's just, it's just a They're in the shopping mall.
Steering from the view.
They're in the shopping mall. It's the same
And
way
just steering from the view,
with my grandparents, and we
And it's always been about 5 people
to
that
the north.
meet on every
Right.
They're in the shopping malls.
Well, there's meeting spaces.
Or they're
Go
behind
over
the
certain
screen,
big
of
projects
course.
and so on.
And we're there.
And new things like that.
Yes, if you get her around with that.
I know, yeah.
Exactly.
It's been
A night in the stable.
Yeah.
That's what my dad used to call it. He goes, "Oh,
It's lovely. So yeah, that's what I said.
But
You
yeah.
have the feeling of despair, almost darkness.
Mhm.
But as she talked more and more about the evolution, felt it came to a home with love.
Yeah, there was a time up until
It was
COVID.
like-
And the whole
The
thing was
close
a lot
nature.
more waiting. But
This
now,
is
now the problem, the
very
other problem
good.
we have,
As we partner with our
is
horses,
we have like,
bringing more people out.
we have
into
about
nature
100, last year we had 111 members,
that we are
31
helping
in
with.
Sweden.
Couple of change.
So,
Yes.
Think about
the
the
only thing
city
we've done for
kids.
Sweden, we have is supported something from the backyard in Swedish. We did emotional message charities in Swedish. We did a couple of things like that, translated them and produced them in Swedish for those people.
Challenging. I think a lot of it is the question.
So there's a project that was being launched today, which
What are
was.
What are some challenges for us currently?
Creating or sustaining your business? I think the understanding of really what it is. I think we can still. find out
Yes,
what
because it's
it is.
very new.
Yes,
Not answering
and
this
for us to,
question.
I mean, this was. I had a mentor sometimes. It's really hard to describe.
It is.
What was the first question?
The feel part.
Yeah,
It's absolutely. It's not like we're using them as an object to just do this.
Some
Right.
people,
For me,
some
today,
guys do. Right?
Yeah, yes, yes.
It's not
No, I
So
think-
it's
I think
really,
what Gail said was how do you,
intuitive.
how do you push the message
What are some
to the alumni
challenges?
who are
Um,
from
Delivering,
Yeah.
yeah, delivering and educating.
And I totally agree the way
educating
things are
people.
going. And a couple people are trying to
Yeah.
session from and so forth. Well,
Don't know what they don't know.
Right now.
That's what she said.
That's true.
That's what she
Or
said.
something's always gonna be something.
so how do you get the
Right,
message? out
you know,
to
they'll
people,
say
number one? Number
that.
two, who's keeping track of the truth to know what to do?
I mean, the end result, it's.
Like in Ontario,
It's just
in
uneducated.
Ontario, we have
Yeah, that's a challenge.
It's like it's a therapy goes through.
there's so many
It's
people.
not.
Chiropractor at one
So
point.
much
I
less
see
is the
this
same
probably.
thing. Sure.
In Ontario, one of the problems we have
It's
is
a
that there's such
different
long
modality,
waiting
yeah.
for people to sleep
But
things.
There's still a stigma.
There
There's
is
still a
with
stigma.
with the mental health
Yes.
aspect.
People don't know what to do.
Yeah,
And people are actually
Oh,
going,
yeah.
what else
And
can
I
I do?
think that
Because they're
leads
looking
to having
for
a practice.
alternatives. Because they're trying to find
So
something to help get it themselves and so on and so
They're all
forth.
covered under.
yeah.
insurance.
That's ours,
Unless they're. They're
practitioner.
Yeah.
So it's different.
Yeah.
We're not, we're, yeah. And we're not covered.
From there, the
And that
problem
hits
is
our
that
bottom line.
they still have the mentality that that means insurance things, and therefore it's a psychotherapist. Well, there's not enough psychotherapists now. There's not gonna be more of
Yeah,
just
so I-
psychotherapists. Right? But what the people don't understand is that they're supposed to do
Because
with
public understanding.
that's the key. So I had a couple of people call me and say, well, can I do this from my insurance? I said, do you think? I can't do it with your number two.
Yeah.
Is this really important to you? Yes. Then why does it matter? if the insurance company- How important is it? Because if all you're trying to do with the insurance, okay, so most people have like a 5-minute month, but they're $200 a session. You only do 2 sessions. You do that quick. So there's a whole
Yeah, there's a mentality.
teaching around that that needs to be done. But then there's also taking a look at the trend that, okay, so if the trend right now is that all these people are looking for help, how do we
So
guide
do you
them
do
into
like a sliding scale?
So I'm getting a lot of
Yeah.
kids. The only person I know with some kids too.
So I charge
And I'm just,
What age
because
kids?
I have to teenagers.
everything.
You know,
Right.
School plus.
no, I work up to plus 3 hours, so I just.
You really wanted to-
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a big demand for that, especially in the summer times, you do summer thing. I don't want to do that. I'll help design a program, but I mean, I don't know. Then.
It's hard, it's hard to,
Not
it's not,
coming in,
yeah.
um,
Yeah. It's not that easy, okay, they're crying, okay,
so
I'll start over.
whatever,
Yeah.
um,
That's
Just like the crying, sorry, you're done.
Yeah, yeah. They were just been, so that, it's not.
And she was in the chat. I know what the
When
conversation.
you have a value that kind of,
Divorce
so you have to
is,
rally
right here, you, or
and yeah,
see,
then you say
and
that.
I'll be right for half of
You
it.
say, yes, you
I
are.
was having a guy do it, this one, right?
Right.
So when you just because it's all wrong, doesn't mean to say you feel proud.
Right,
So,
right.
So it's so, I think,
You got
more
cross-
already using it. And
Yeah,
then more
but trying to figure out how to organize it, but she's
Oh.
working full time, she's working full time.
Okay, so we need to,
Well, I work with on the farms, I do, but I'm just.
so that's the problem, we need to come up with a solution, which is like marketing.
But that's a whole other
discussion
That's-
around
that's-
their funding
See,
model
and
and their
that's,
funding
and
model.
that's where the.
If that could just see the robust, I don't know.
There's
Oh,
a-
okay.
I like what you said about the
From my
county.
body, what I took away, because I'm still.
Yeah,
trying to
because
see
that's
how
like
to
gorgeous
work
stuff.
in that.
It's- yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Languaging
generation
around this, and I've got a circle of friends who
because
are
that was what you
10 years ago.
Yes, of course it does.
I
And
don't
it counts
know,
the other comments.
10 years ago, you.
Yeah. Hours of silence.
Right.
So that's why I like.
You know, so I
to
need to give you the how do you, because it's like, what do you mean?
You're doing that. What's new? What's required? What's, you know.
And so, but it's,
So I go to a
yeah.
conference for 3 days, so.
Yeah,
Right.
Something what the first speaker said about like
You stay
getting this
connected
to
and
that level.
That's so important. Because we kind of work on a silo in many ways. Yeah, because no, we don't have good friends that do this.
Yeah.
And we're kind of loners in our areas and then we
Yeah.
come here and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, these people do what we do, it's awesome.
Yeah, I know.
But that- And that's a big deal.
So it's easy to do. No,
And that's
none
what
of them
we're
are looking
hoping that this thing-
To open it up.
Yeah, they don't get it.
Nice.
Secondary approach.
I'm getting right
Even
now.
to say.
It's really
supervision,
important
very
to
approach the
They
professional.
come together.
Yes, you know what?
Because I've been feeling demotivated a little bit lately when I come here. And I'll go home, I knew, I'll go
Yeah.
home feeling refreshed.
Stay with it.
Stay with it.
Stay with it.
Stay with it. That was my message.
They're not desperate enough to open up their own wallet.
Yeah.
But that's just.
My message.
No,
Yeah, look after yourself.
Yeah, the belief system, right? I thought that this
And that's
I
why-
should be able to use it. And I can't use it.
And that's why every time I hit into one with people, I'm trying to get them self-drives. Is this important?
Yearly.
Yes, it is.
And I
Why
like
did you pull this?
courses too for, like, what are the things you like? This is what we need on this, on the facility.
Because
I love it.
I did this all along years ago.
Oh, cool.
Just Google it.
Okay.
And it's a group that gets together.
It would be a full certification.
No.
I want my practice in the group. Tell me about the group and join it. It's really good. They say do what we do.
Okay.
Yeah. Highly recommend it.
Is it Canadian based or is it?
Yes, it's over Zoom.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Good.
This month and bringing 40 people representing all the different groups, associations, support groups, and representing some of them, because it's apparently 400 or 500 people
And you have to have
fulfill
this
this category of
long
being
plan
support.
for
one
future
another, so
goals
forth.
as well.
So just
So
need
what
40
are
of those to come through.
So what's part of
3-hour block.
your business
So it's
strategy?
great.
Because I'm,
So we can actually talk about what do we do,
so what's
and
in
what is
place?
offered.
So
So basically.
I have built basically a model on what I do in the website. But I've also
You're doing
added now clinical therapy.
No, it's gonna have to be that many people that
Oh,
show
okay.
up there. It's not.
So she,
We're ready to
because I
get
wanted
started.
the group.
We're gonna do the-
Yes,
Yes,
so I
right.
put that group
That's exciting.
workshop together and it's under, we use two people that I love, David Pressler and Gourmet. We're using some of this, but
Followed
each
by,
session.
we're asking for 6 people to
You
put
do
on
the stages.
volunteers, so we can talk about
So
it.
after we talk,
So we
then
can see
you know, people
the
do
rational
change
performance.
because grief is on
And that's gonna be
the
that for 2 hours and she's gonna have her emotions great.
And that was my biggest thing.
But
So
that's,
sorry,
if you
it's
go
for
back
the
to.
agency people, for the lending professionals, caregiving boards, for them to recommend to the highways.
But it can't be both.
Yeah,
Right?
that's what I'm
Doing,
thinking.
so
Yeah, it could be both, but you can't, so it's basically putting out the fact of what is it we're going to do. And who's not.
So FYI, I don't know.
yeah, right. So
That
that's.
comes starts with the site, any site service, right? So that includes. Certain categories. Okay, so they have.
Hi, Kelly. I'm just starting to round people up again.
Don't have services. They don't have. We don't have a visiting person like that. So what we do, so there's a big chunk of funding carried over this year. So you might have, there might be that.
Okay, we're ready for you.
Well, did you need? Okay. So it's like 2 hours.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Everyone's very engaged.
I'm so glad.
Yes, it's all good. So just, they're making their way back into the room.
That's great. I'm so glad. It's really interesting to be talking to a group I can't see and get their eye contact and know, like, am I missing something?
Yes, I can completely empathize with that. Yeah. It's been great. Actually, the content is all linking together, so it's awesome.
Oh, isn't that great?
Mhm.
And did it resonate for you, Jennifer? I'm just curious.
Absolutely. Yes.
Good.
So I'm going to turn my camera off as everyone comes back.
Okay.
Okay. I'll give you the cue.
All righty.
Hey.
You're back.
Yay.
Yay.
Did you get to work at all?
No, that's okay.
No, thanks.
I'm okay with
I know.
I guess Peter forgot his jacket.
He said he almost left.
He had to, he just said he had an emergency.
Oh, like he left the property.
He's gone. Yeah,
Oh.
I think so. We took a step. Is everybody here? Are all the groups here? Is the donkey group here?
The donkey group.
Looking for the donkey group.
The donkey. Do you guys have enough?
Oh, they're on their way.
Coming back, Kelly.
Yay, Bridget. Thank you.
We're waiting for those donkey people. They're your people.
The donkey team. Actually, I have 2 donkeys as well. And I have to say, yes, as soon as we got the second donkey, the first one was much happier.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been good for everybody, actually. Yeah.
Okay, so I think everybody's here.
Hey.
Okay, in the interest of time, I'm gonna keep us going. So
Yeah, go for it, Jennifer.
Carry on, Kelly.
So does anybody have any questions or comments? Yeah, from anything we've talked about today?
So we're moving into Q&A. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Does anyone have any questions for Kelly?
Or comments or sharings, anything at
I'm
all.
gonna see if this works. I'm just gonna turn the camera on.
Oh, thank you. That's
And
great.
see
I'd love
if
to
you
see
can
everybody.
Does that work? No.
And if you turned the camera around like you did.
Oh.
Here, there.
There we go.
Oh, hi, everybody. Yay.
That's why they're here.
Everybody, hi. That's so great.
So can I get everyone's attention? I'm hearing a conversation at the back. Could we get everybody focused on our speaker, please?
Not on me, just on your questions or anything that you have.
Questions for Kelly. We have this wonderful opportunity to ask some questions. Any questions?
I will, Kelly. My name's Janice, and in our group, the first question, what does this talk provoke or evoke? So I'll just share the words: alignment, simple, sense of responsibility, and validation. So thank you.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I'm so happy to hear that. I'm curious, what the simple word, what about it is simple?
That was your word.
It was, yeah, that was my word.
Nothing like throwing you under the bus.
But it's more about how, we overanalyze, we put all kinds of rules in place. So we take away the fluidity of somebody's experience and their emotions or their feelings, whereas this is a reflective practice. It shouldn't have to have a process that you have to follow step by step or too many rules.
I want to share with you that as you said that, my new donkey Stella is eeing. This is all over. So yes. Yes, thank you. That's right. It's for me, some of the structure and, I wasn't trained through field, so I don't know exactly what that means, but structure but I am an ICF certified coach, and we had to learn our scales, we had to learn structure and ethics, and it was very, very rigid on purpose, to keep us kind of a fidelity to, right process. And but after we mastered that, then you get to become an improvisational jazz instructor or jazz player, right? So the structure is there to support, and then on top of it is this beautiful emergent process that only happens when you're profoundly present to the moment, just like the donkey calling over from the arena to here, from her paddock to here as you spoke. That's being true to the moment, and that's really the magic of this work. There is totally not just a coincidence that the donkey called, that Stella called while you were talking about that. Totally not a coincidence.
If I could just clarify though, it wasn't just about feel. I was in general, people are in their lives are confined by all these rules, and
yes,
and going into a feel experience is why we need to make it simple.
Nice. Thank you for that clarification. Yes, totally. It's true. It's true.
I think I have our group,
Go for it.
all of us sort of hit that at first when we were listening to you talk, it got to be we all felt kind of despair listening to how it was going, and then almost darkness. But then there was hope and light, because your quote of saying nature misses us really hits home about us partnering with horses and being about the change.
Yes.
Putting that out there.
Yes.
So it's being part of the change. So it brought
That's right. Yes, it's being the change, and it's such a it's such a service to the world at this time. And that process that you just described, I'm just going to draw something for you because you might find it useful in the work that you do. This is common in nature. Of course, Otto Scharmer made it his, but it's not, it's nature's. It's a U. And people are operating, here at sort of a surface level. We come together at the beginning of the talk and we're kind of like, hi, how are you? Thank you, la la. Then we drop into places that are unknown, and it can sometimes feel heavy. And this, you'll find you probably have this experience when you're doing your work with a client. Maybe not as heavy as what happened today when I was giving you like, here's the real deal, what's happening on planet Earth right now. But when you allow yourselves to go into the shadowy places, and then you drop into a resourced place, which in the case of this conversation was Uncle Bob and Yvette Running Horse and all these wonderful cosmologies that support us, and the earth and the horses, then we pull out with new insight and inspiration. But people are afraid of this part in general, and so we go straight this way, right? So this is just a wonderful kind of framework and pattern to do. And sometimes it's horses, sometimes it's just being present down here. Yeah.
Any other
I think I
questions?
have 5 more minutes, Jennifer, right?
You have 5 more minutes. Any other questions?
Our group had a couple of comments about seeds of regeneration. And I believe what we captured was that idea to share the information, educate, not in a pedantic sense, but make this information available and maybe wider, reaching wider.
Yes. Yes, I believe that's true. I really, in my experience, and I don't know if it's your experience, but in my experience, people, potential clients, the public at large, don't really know what they don't know what they don't know. And you say the word horse, and right away it goes into a wormhole of their bias, their preconceived ideas. Oh yeah, I rode a horse once and he bucked me off, or oh yeah, equine therapy. And the listening stops. And so we have a challenge to like, wait, no, like this is what this work really is. And this is the foundation on which it's built on. And it allows for an education that is, important, so that people understand, oh, just because I'm standing in a paddock with a horse and maybe painting his side doesn't mean they're doing deep oneness work where the horse is a companion. So it's an opportunity for all of us to really level up the industry as a whole and say, this is the premise on which we're working.
Well, how do you do that, Kelly? Okay, when you can give people an experience, that's great.
Yes.
But if you don't have that opportunity, how do you do that? Like if you just talk to them.
That is such a great question. And I have to say that's a question that I ask myself every single day. And I keep asking myself, how do I do that? So this is what I found in the 20 years that I've been doing this work actively, is I avoid the use of the word horse as much as possible. Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild? Because that word is so laden with everybody's everything. So I lead with words like, assisting people to return to their natural state. I just use all kinds of other language around ontological approach, holistic approach, transformation learning. And then when I hear them really, or I feel them really listening, then I bring the horse in. That has worked really well. And if I haven't captured them with that first part about our connection to ourselves and our connection to the earth, or really transforming cultures and organizations, if they're not listening at that point, I'm just going to drop the conversation. No one's going to hear me. It's fine. They don't owe it to me to hear me. It's just like, I'm just not going to go there necessarily. The other thing is that my essays, like my outreach to the general public, all my essays, my book is all about educating. So I find lots of ways to have platforms to educate. For you, it might be a podcast, essays, blogs, things with, social sharing or whatever. And again, I'll emphasize, lead with what the horse is pointing to, not with the word horse.
That's a great line. Can you repeat that line again?
Yeah. Lead with, when you're reaching out to someone, lead with what the horse is pointing to, not with the modality of the horse. Because it's not about the horse.
No. Can I also add one more thing? Hi, it's Clarice, and thank you so much for this great talk, by the way, Joy.
Yeah.
I also add something maybe that may be simplistic, but how each one of us walk in the world. Because I feel the horses have made a difference to who I am and who I have become.
Yes.
And I think that's education for people. And I'll just share an anecdote. There's people close to me in my life who sometimes will say, oh, you need to go see the horses. You're really out of whack. But it's important that how we walk in the world, each one of us, that's part of the education.
Yeah. For sure. Thank you. Horses really evoke us to be the best humans we can be, and that's a lifelong journey. And so we teach the world by who we are and how we model that. So that's really important. I see that it's the bottom of the hour.
Andre just has a quick,
Andre, yes.
comment.
No, I just wanted to share what we were talking about. A couple of key things were, one, and I love what you just said about that. Yeah, I think we need to start changing our languaging in terms of how we describe this work. That's definitely one of the ways. I think the other one too is we've got to take a look at what are the trends. Because the trends right now are, especially in Ontario, we have a lack of psychotherapists. We have a lot of people that are trying to get either themselves or their kids or somebody in their family to a psychotherapist. And they're reaching out because, oh, you do equine assisted psychotherapy, thinking, oh, that's a shortcut to a psychotherapist. And I'm running into these conversations asking people, well, why is it specifically you want a psychotherapist? Is it because of you're going to write it off to insurance, which they're only going to cover 2 sessions, or is it because you don't want to pay for it? You don't see the value for it? Or I've actually turned to one lady, basically said, you know, how important is this to you? Then why are you not willing to pay for it? It's the real shock. So that was one. So the whole insurance thing. What was the third one? The languaging around it. Oh, and then the other trends that are happening too, in terms of who's starting to reach out for kids. Sorry, not for kids, but kids, women, and so forth. And I think what we need to do is look at possibly doing our own outreach to find, okay, where are the pockets that we need to go to?
Yes.
People that are in need and so forth, and possibly become the middleman of saying, okay, you have a need, we have an answer, now we got to figure out who pays. Right.
100%. Yes. Thank you so much for that. And what I'll share with you, I hope this is helpful. One of the places where this work is needed more than anywhere in the world is in the highly privileged arena of the white male 1% CEO.
Oh, yeah.
This is where I work deliberately. And that area subsidizes when I work with the most disenfranchised people in the world. And so you forget HR, go straight to the CEO, cultivate relationships with the CEO directly, because the CEO has to be touched by what you're saying. The HR person will never be able to articulate it. So go straight to the CEOs. This is an area where, horse-assisted learning can teach about culture change in organizations, can teach about leadership in organizations, can teach about soft skills, all this stuff that are the buzzwords in the corporate sector. And you can partner with third parties like, we call them destination managers here in the US. They are companies who help corporations find locations to have experiences. So you give them an experience for free. They go, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing on earth. And then they go to the corporate people and say, you need to have a taste of this. And they believe them. So I'm super happy to help you all with this sort of thing. I feel very driven and called to get this work in the places where it's needed most. And because of the high price tag a corporation will pay, then I can do my other heart work, the work with people who cannot afford it. I can do that for either less or pro bono. That's how I play with that. I don't know if that addresses some of what you're saying, but.
Yeah, it does actually, and I appreciate that. I actually had the privilege of working with a lady who was head of the wellness of a hospital, and to send one of the surgeons who had an issue with boundaries. And it was actually the surgeon who paid for his own sessions. They were agreed to do 4 sessions. And the feedback from his staff later on was, wow, what a difference.
Yes.
But you're right. How do you get that one?
Yes.
It's not like, you go to a bad restaurant, you tell 10 people, you go to a good restaurant, you might tell 1. Well, we give a really good experience, but nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah, that is a challenge. And I even tell people not to talk about it because, it diminishes their experience if they try to articulate something that even well-meaning people are trying to understand. But how do you tell them the color of the sky if they've never seen the sky? You just can't do it. So I advise them to say, you know, you just have to experience it for yourself. And that level of mystery. I think I'll leave you with one other. There are so many ways to create more turnover and robustness inside this field. But one of them is, you know, have your $1 million offer. In other words, I had a client who's an author and she runs a multi-million-dollar business. So I gave her a proposal to work with me for 3 years for $100,000, A. B, to work with me for half a year for X amount, and C, to work with me in this other way. When you have your $1 million offer, they may or may not choose that, but they'll for sure choose the second one.
Yeah.
And make your second one not 4 sessions, a year. Let the horse have a year with this person to totally transform their life, and make your $1 million thing a 3-year, you know. So, you know, I'm just talking a little bit, sort of a little bit metaphorically, but not, you know, have always 3 options. Top one is like, woo, nosebleed. Then second one doesn't look like nosebleed. And that's not manipulative. What that does is it funnels people where they need to be, because you know how they're gonna be served. They don't.
Yeah.
Right. So can I show my website real quick?
Sure, go for it. And then we're gonna, Bridget's gonna thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. This is one website. Thank you. Thank all of you. And thank you, Bridget. You worked so hard to get me here. Thank you so much. Very persistent.
Thank you so much. There's a couple donkeys outside, Bring, Jake and Leroy, and they said they're sending it down to New Mexico. We look forward to you coming up. You're on my vision board. So we're going to be seeing you in Canada. I'm going to invite all these people. And
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. All right.
And so appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Okay. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Have a great time.
Bye.
Okay.